Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are literally stepping onto the battlefield of one of the most monumental and expansive epics in human history, the Mahabharata. We're going to unpack a specific, deeply fascinating analysis drawn directly from our source material, and it looks at the sheer scale of the warriors involved in this ancient conflict. And it all begins with one highly debated question. Who was the most dangerous warrior in the Mahabharata? I want you to actually pause and think about that for a second. If you're familiar with the epic, who personally holds that legendary title in your mind? Like, who was the absolute apex predator of this ancient battlefield? I'd be willing to bet that for the vast majority of you, your mind immediately jumped to one of two legendary names. You'd likely guess the universally renowned Arjuna, or perhaps you'd passionately argue for Karna, and rightfully so. These two are absolute titans of the epic, universally respected and, for sure, universally feared. But our source material poses a really brilliant counter-question here. What if there was someone else whose name made great warriors cautious? What if, beyond Arjuna and Karna, there was a third, mysterious wildcard who struck fear into the hearts of even the greatest Maharathis, the supreme commanders of this ancient battlefield? Okay, let's dive into this and look at the prime candidate. Section 1. Arjuna, Skill and Divine Support. So let's break down exactly why Arjuna is so widely considered the most skilled warrior of his time and arguably the gold standard of warfare. His status isn't just about raw strength. Actually, it's more like a perfect storm of advantages. First off, he was an unparalleled archer, an absolute master of focus and precision. Second, he possessed a remarkably deep knowledge of divine weapons, giving him access to literally earth-shattering power. But perhaps his most unique, absolutely unmatched advantage? Having Lord Krishna himself acting as his charioteer, providing supreme strategic and divine guidance. But, as we'll see, the epic doesn't let Arjuna stand uncontested. Section 2. Innate Power and Generosity. Now, Karna is introduced as a warrior whose reputation practically echoed across the entirety of Aryavarta, the ancient Indian subcontinent. The source highlights very specific attributes that made him uniquely formidable. He was quite literally born with a biological defense system, divine armor known as kavach, and earrings, or kundal. This granted him incredible innate protection right from the start. Coupled with this physical prowess was his legendary generosity, his danvirta, which truly defined his immense character. And in the narrative, all of these traits converge to cement his status as Arjuna's greatest and most absolute rival. And this brilliantly illustrates the classic debate that has captivated audiences for centuries. We have Arjuna's unparalleled archery and strategic divine guidance going head-to-head against Karna's innate physical defenses and raw, rivalrous power. It's the perfect matchup, right? Two perfectly matched titans, defining the very limits of martial skill. Section 3. The Dark Horse, Ashwathama. Remember that wild card we mentioned at the start? Well, now we're looking at a deeply unsettling figure. Ashwathama's danger doesn't just come from clean, honorable duels. As the son of Dronacharya, he shared a terrifying knowledge of divine weapons. But what truly sets him apart in our source material is the war's final phase, where his wrath takes on a purely destructive, almost apocalyptic form. It's this absolute, unbridled fury at the very end of the conflict that makes him, as the text notes, the epic's most mysterious and perhaps most terrifying character. Section 4. The Verdict, War, Dharma, and Decisions. So, what does this all mean? How do we actually reconcile these completely different types of power? Well, if you were looking for a simple calculation of strength, the source material is very clear. There is no single answer. Measuring danger in a text as complex as the Mahabharata, it isn't like looking at a sports scorecard. It's way deeper than that. Notice how the very nature of the threat completely changes based on the context. If we're talking purely about supreme battle skill, the mechanics of warfare and archery, Arjuna and Karna are the undisputed masters. They represent the absolute peak of honorable, structural combat. However, if we shift the definition of danger to measure sheer destructive capacity and the terrifying deployment of divine weapons in singular, catastrophic episodes, well, Ashwathama's significance absolutely skyrockets. The nature of the danger shifted entirely depending on the situation and the phase of the war. So here is the absolute crucial point to take away from this. The Mahabharata is far more than just a catalog of battles and warrior stats. The source explicitly reminds us that it is a profound narrative resting firmly on these three pillars. It's a deep, intricate story about character, the decisions these warriors make in the heat of unimaginable conflict, and ultimately dharma, righteousness and duty. The actual danger a warrior posed was intrinsically tied to these 3 steps. Which leaves the final verdict entirely up to you. Based on the unparalleled skill of Arjuna, the innate power and resolve of Karna, or the mysterious, destructive fury of Ashwatthama, who is your choice? Act as the jury for this ancient debate and let us know. Comment just one name down below. Thanks so much for joining this explainer, and keep questioning the epics.